Many people struggle with Erasmus Mundus because they don't understand the timeline or they are unclear about important documents, what to prepare, when to prepare, and how all the pieces actually come together. Don't worry, I got you and I'll explain it all. Before I get into that though, if you haven't already watched my earlier videos on what Erasmus Mundus is and how to use the catalog to shortlist programs, I highly recommend starting there. Those are really the foundation for everything I'm going to talk about because in this video, I'm walking you through the full application timeline, the key documents you'll need to prepare, and a real example step by step.
Erasmus Mundus applications follow a fairly standard timeline, but there are some key variations depending on the program. Very important point. There is no limits on the number of programs you can apply to. You may have heard from other blogs or videos or articles that there's a cap of 3 programs per academic year or academic cycle. This has been removed. It was the case previously that students were only allowed to apply to 3 programs, but now there is no limit. If you want to apply to 5 different programs or even 10 different programs, you can definitely do that. There is no limit. The second important thing to remember is that most EMJM programs will have their own independent application portal. So there is no one central platform where you would apply to all 5 or 10 programs. Each program or each consortium of universities has established its own method. This might mean you are making 5 different accounts if you are applying to 5 different programs. You must check the application instructions on each program's website. It will tell you specifically how to send your documents and your application in. There is no centralized portal. If you are browsing on the catalog and you're wondering, where do I submit? Each consortium will have its own method. So double check. This is why the tracker that I mentioned previously is so important because once you have it listed on that tracker, you know program 1 is going here, program 2 is going here. This is the general timeline for the application cycle. Again, it is not absolute. You must check individually, program by program, what the specifics are. Also, note that time is an important piece to consider. If the program says the application is due by January 15th at 11:59 Central European Time and you're in a different time zone, consider that as well. Unfortunately, some students miss their application and are not considered because they did not comply with even the time requirement. Please check that. It's important to note even the timings on the application tracker or whatever method you are using. I've looked at hundreds of different EMJM programs, and this is the general schedule that I see, the general pattern, but double check your specific programs as well. Normally, the application period, so when it opens and when it will close, that is usually between September and February. Sometimes it's October 1st to November 1st, a very short and tight window. Others are October 1st to January 15th. It really depends. But most will close by the end of February, if not early to mid March. However, double check because it can change year after year. If you are reapplying to the same program because you were rejected previously, ensure that you have the correct deadline for this cycle. It may have changed since when you applied previously. Interviews generally are February, March, April. And I've put this little note here that it may or may not be part of the selection process. For some programs, the interview is mandatory. For some, it's optional. And for some, they do not incorporate that as part of the process. Results and decisions, that's generally from March to May. But it is important to note that it could be after. It depends on where you're ranked in the list. For example, if you are waitlisted, you could be called for an acceptance or for the scholarship in May or in June. So even if you don't hear back in March, that's okay. There's still some flexibility there with when you hear back. Also, the majority of programs will begin between August to October. So have that in mind that that is when the academic year begins. So the program was going to start in and around that. The most important takeaway with this timeline is that you need to work backwards. Meaning, if you want to start your EMJM journey in September of 2028, for example, you ideally are preparing and working on your application 8 to 12 months before. Because if you're starting September 2028, it is possible that the program's application deadline is January of 2028, which means you're starting weeks or even months before that. Another important item to note is that self funded places could be available, and you would want to consult the program coordinator about that. Typically, the scholarship deadline closes a lot earlier than the self funded places. But if you do have perhaps an external scholarship or external funding or savings, and you want to pursue an Erasmus Mundus program quickly and as soon as possible, and you are able to self fund, then you can still look on the program websites and see if there are places available for self funded students. For the visual learners out there, I have found a great timeline to show this in action. This is the timeline for the Master of Science in Skin Health and Care. This is for the intake 2025 to 2027. It's a 2-year master's program. We see that the start date is September 2025. The selection committee and the program coordinators have the application first round opened from November 1st, 2024 to the 31st of January in 2025. This is for the first round. The selection, so this is the time when the selection committee assesses and sorts through the applications. That's from the 1st of February to the 15th of April of 2025. From those, they are selecting 18 students with scholarships and then 7 non fee paying self funded students. This program has 18 scholarships, Erasmus scholarships. That means a minimum of 75% of them have to go to students from partner countries. We also see that there are 7 non fee paying self funded students. So I looked on the Emotion website. That's the name of the Master of Science in Skin Health and Care. I looked on the Emotion website. Non fee paying in this case for Emotion means you are getting a tuition fee waiver, but you need to pay for your living costs, your travel, these extra costs. You just are not paying for the tuition. That's different from the Erasmus Mundus scholarships. Those students are not paying tuition and they're also getting that 1,400 euro stipend monthly. So that's the key difference. Then we see there is a second application round from the 1st of May to the 31st of May. And the selection for that is the 1st of June to the 30th of June, 2025. From this batch, they will enroll 5 fee paying students. So these students will pay tuition, living expenses, travel expenses, everything. This is what I mean by you need to ensure that you have the deadline correct. If you are applying for the scholarship and this type of funding, usually your application is going to be a lot earlier in the cycle. Whereas if you are able to self fund, there may be multiple rounds where they will accept applicants. It really depends per program, but it's important to note that the start is September 2025 and there are different stages. So that means on the 31st of January 2025, the application is closed. So if you were missing items in the on the checklist hypothetically, you would not be eligible. Now let's look at the application requirements. These are what you are going to be submitting to the selection committee, to the consortium. Perhaps not everything on this list each program will want, but these are the general components, and some will be mandatory. First is the bachelor's degree or equivalent. You typically need an undergraduate degree in a relevant field. So, what I mean by relevant field is that your undergraduate major or area of study corresponds and lays the foundation of your master's degree. Some programs may accept students from any background and are very flexible with the academic history you have, while others require a degree in a specific discipline. For example, there is a master in international vaccinology called LIVE, and the academic background this program requires is in cell biology, molecular biology, biochemistry, physiology, and microbiology. So if you have a background in public health or in history, you would not qualify for this specific program. Always check that your major or your degree corresponds to what the selection committee is looking for. If you don't know, or perhaps the name is a bit different or varies from country to country, you can send an email to the coordinating institutions and ask them for clarification. Next, we have language proficiency. Most programs are taught in English, so you need to demonstrate proficiency. The exact score you need and the valid tests will be indicated on the program website. Some tests certain programs will accept, while others they are not accepted. For example, Duolingo. This is sometimes accepted by certain programs, but I have seen other programs say we do not accept Duolingo. As well, you must be proficient in the languages suitable for the chosen study pathway if required. Certain programs will have specific requirements if the coursework is in a language that is not English. This is the example of EuroPub Health, the European Public Health Master. So in this program, you can take in English and Spanish or in French, depending on the mobility track that you're going on, because there are partners in Spain and in France. If you are only doing the English track, you only have to show proficiency in English. But if you wanted to do the English track and the Spanish track, which means also studying at the partner university in Spain, you would need to show proficiency in Spanish. And this is what the web page is showing us. Language requirements for candidates going to Granada in year one or year two. You would have to show that B2 level in Spanish. That is because you are doing courses in Spanish. Again, though, if you are if you are applying to this program and you know you're not going to Granada and you know that you're not going to France, then you don't have to worry about it. This would only be for students who want to study at these institutions as part of the master's in public health. There are also exemptions, of course, if you are a citizen of certain countries, you would not need to show that proficiency. Again, always confirm. This may or may not apply to you, but if you are going to do coursework as part of the master's in a language other than English, you also have to show proficiency in that language plus English as last piece regarding the language proficiency. If you are a citizen of certain countries or completed your bachelor's degree in a fully English speaking environment and were 100% taught in English, you may be exempt from this language proficiency requirement. You would not need to show a test. Each program has its own rules regarding that. So it's good to look on the webpage to see exactly which countries are exempt. And if you're not exempt, which tests you need to show that you have completed and attained a certain score. For example, in my case, because I'm Canadian, I did all of my education in Canada. I did not have to show that proficiency test or exam. Next, we have the letter of motivation. Some programs may call it personal statement, letter of intent, motivation letter. This is all very much the same thing. It is you creating a text about your story, your portfolio, your background, and sending that as part of your application. I cover this extensively later on, so I won't spend a lot of time now talking about it, but this I am very confident that most programs will ask, if not all. Many programs also ask for a CV or resume. This is where you would put your accomplishments, your job experience, any internships, certificates, skills, whether hard skills or soft skills or technical skills that you have. It will go on the CV or resume. Again, just like the letter of motivation, I have an entire section dedicated to that. Transcripts are going to be very important, and this is an aspect that the selection committee takes very seriously. For some programs, they require that you or your university mails transcripts directly to them, while others will accept a scanned copy or an unofficial copy. And then, if you are accepted, you may need to get the official copies sent to them. They may also need to be legalized or authenticated. Double check what the program is expecting in terms of transcripts. Programs may also ask for you to provide a scanned copy of your passport. So ensure that you have one and that it's up to date because it may affect your chances if you don't have a valid passport. Work experience, if required. Some programs are very strict on the years of work experience that you have and the type of work experience, whereas others is not an expectation or requirement. It's nice to have, but it's not mandatory. There are some programs who may ask for a video from you or a writing sample. Check the requirements and check the components that you need to send. Some programs finally may expect and require a minimum GPA as well. With this, because so many countries have different ranking systems and grading systems, I recommend using World Education Service to convert your grades and your grading scale to the one of the program. This will help you see if you are hitting that GPA requirement or not. That would be my best advice is to convert it using WES, or if there's another website that works for you, great. But rather than trying to guess if you're meeting that requirement or no, use a website to do it. It'll save you a lot of time.
At this point, you understand the general timeline, you know what certain documents mean and what pieces you need to start gathering, you know how to actually move through the application, but there's still another big piece left. How do selection committees score? What are the admissions decisions available? That's what I'm going to break down in the next video. After that, we are diving deep into the CV and letter motivation, examples, how I would analyze a good versus weak CV and letter motivation, 5 ways you can structure your letter motivation, and the biggest mistakes applicants make. If you're serious about this process, subscribe and follow along, and I'll see you in the next one.